If you've watched my videos before, then you already know that nearly every great prophet has cast a dark shadow over the year 2025. But as we followed the clues left behind by these prophecies, another discovery emerged, one that made everything feel even more ominous. It was a forgotten prophecy from a Zen master who lived over 1,000 years ago, a man revered as one of the 7 greatest seers in the history of ancient China. His name was Hango Xian, and within an almost lost collection of classical poems, he left behind 14 prophetic verses. Astonishingly, 12 of those 14 have already come true, leaving only 2, and one of them contains a prediction that speaks of a world-shifting event in the year. What exactly did this ancient monk foresee? Let's find out in today's story. Fasten your seatbelt as we dive into today's mystery. But first, you might just have incredible luck if you like and subscribe before this video ends. In Europe, the name Nostradamus is often invoked as the quintessential symbol of prophecy. But in the East, there exists a figure no less revered by later generations, a man remembered not only as a deeply enlightened monk but also as a prophet whose visions transcended time itself. His name was Zen master Hango Xian. According to historical records, he lived during China's Tang dynasty more than 1,000 years ago. But Hango was not a mystic in the conventional sense. He did not travel from town to town delivering cryptic sermons or promising salvation to the masses. Instead, he withdrew from the world, dedicating his life to asceticism and deep meditation. He believed that only by letting go of worldly attachments could one truly grasp the essence of the universe. And yet, his life was far from dry or detached from history. On the contrary, it was his profound ability to bridge the sacred and the worldly that made him such a singular figure. On one occasion, it is said that he struck the future Emperor Xuanzong of Tan across the Feizan act of startling defiance, meant to teach the young ruler about compassion and humility. In any culture, a monk daring to raise his hand to a future sovereign is a rare and audacious thing. It revealed that Hango was not merely a spiritual recluse, but a man with a vision that defied the limitations of his era. When Xuanzong eventually ascended the throne, he did not retaliate. Instead, he bestowed upon Hango a Dharma title, the Rude Monk, a humorous yet deeply respectful moniker. The emperor himself ordered that all of Hango's teachings be transcribed, among them a collection of 14 prophetic poems. Each verse was like a shard of history, written in rich classical language filled with symbolism, a kind of cryptic code whose true meaning would only be uncovered by future generations. No one could have foreseen that, 800 years later, these seemingly innocuous verses would begin to unfold with chilling accuracy. From the fall of the Ming dynasty to the rise of the Qing, from bloody civil unrest to the golden age of emperors like Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong, every major event in the long arc of Chinese history appeared to be foretold in Hango's verses as if he had held time itself in his hands. But what has left modern scholars truly astonished is a detail hidden within the final 2 poems, an explicit reference to the year 2025. Why would a Zen master from over a millennium ago leave behind a prophetic trace of a year far beyond his own time? And more intriguingly, why does this same year appear repeatedly in the visions of mystics and prophets from entirely different corners of the world, separated by centuries, culture, geographies, with no connection between them? Let's now move on to explore how Zen master Hango came to foresee the future. In the sweeping arc of ancient Chinese history, the Ming dynasty is often remembered as one of the last great empires of Han Chinese rule, with achievements spanning culture, science, and diplomacy. The Ming once stood as a brilliant pinnacle of Eastern civilization, and yet, like all glory in history, that brilliance would eventually fade. What is truly astonishing is that the downfall of this mighty dynasty may have been foretold 8 centuries earlier, in the very first prophetic poem left behind by Zen master Hango. In that poem, Hango referenced the disruption of the sun and moon, 2 celestial symbols that, by no coincidence, directly mirrored the official emblem of the Ming dynasty itself. The image of a chaotic sun and moon served as a powerful metaphor for a kingdom in decline. And indeed, as the Ming entered its final years, that decline became evident on every level. Natural disasters struck in relentless succession. Famine spread across the land. Corruption festered within the court, and violent uprisings erupted with growing ferocity. The people lost faith in their rulers. Farmers rose up in revolt. Factions within the government turned on each other, clawing for what power remained. To the north, the Manchu forces loomed like a black storm gathering at the borders. To the south, Li Zichen, a former soldier turned revolutionary, marched his peasant army toward Beijing, determined to seize the throne. And then, the inevitable happened. In 1644, Li Zicheng's forces breached the capital. In that haunting moment of history, Emperor Chongzhen, the last ruler of the Ming dynasty, took his own life beneath an ancient tree, as if offering one final act of penance to the ancestors he had failed. What defies explanation is that Hango's poem had seemingly predicted this exact fate, not just the fall itself, but the imagery, the moment, and the tone of irreversible tragedy. And yet, the prophecy didn't end there. Beneath the sorrow of collapse, Hango hinted at something greater, motion, larger than any one emperor or empire. For as one age comes to its end, another inevitably begins. Like darkness before the dawn, the fall of the Ming marked not just an ending, but a forewarning of what was to come. What rose from its ashes was the Qing dynasty, ushering in a fundamental shift in the power, culture, and even destiny of China itself. But what continues to unnerve scholars today is the uncanny fact that all of it, the chaos, the death, the regime change, was written plainly in that very first poem, hundreds of years before any of it came to pass. As the Qing dynasty took shape, a young emperor emerged. At the age of just 8, he ascended the throne, and his story would become a defining chapter in China's history. And, incredibly, this too had been prophesied by Hango in his second poem, the exact length of Kangxi's reign. At just 16, Kangxi orchestrated a masterstroke against his regent Oboy, inviting him to tea. Kangxi seized a moment to arrest Oboy and reclaim his throne. What amazed scholars even more was that Hango's poem had also predicted that Kangxi would reign for 61 years, and indeed, he did, becoming one of China's longest reigning emperors. The prophecies continued with Emperor Qianlong, who brought China to the zenith of its grandeur before his own decline. Just as Hango predicted, Qianlong reigned 60 years, then abdicated, continuing to rule behind the scenes, until his death in 1799. China entered a period of slow decay. The fifth poem marked the beginning of China's modern crisis, with the rise of Emperor Jackie the Red Dragon, according to the Chinese calendar 1796. His reign saw corruption, rebellion, and the devastating impact of the Opium Wars. Across many of Zen master Hango's prophetic poems, one cannot help but notice a pattern of astonishing accuracy. Out of 14 total poems, 12 have already come true, leaving only 2 shrouded in uncertainty. And now, the 13th poem. It contains a chilling reference to the year 2025. In the year of the rat, the world reels from plague. The West shall again witness the rise of one from the South. By the year of the snake, all shall return to the center. According to the traditional Asian calendar, the year of the rat corresponds to 2020, and the year of the snake to 2025. What truly chills the spine is not just the mention of these years, but the way modern history has begun to unfold almost exactly as foretold. In 2020, the world was gripped by an unprecedented pandemic. Life froze. Cities stood silent. The global economy faltered. Grief seeped into every household. Now, as we step into 2025, the question lingers: what comes next? The West shall again witness the rise of one from the South. Does this mean a geopolitical shift? The global South rising in influence? Societal upheavals where forgotten communities reclaim their voice? Or spiritual and cultural transformations, challenging the long-established pillars of Western democracy? And what of the line, all shall return to the center? China has long considered itself the middle kingdom, the axis around which all things revolve. Could Hango's prophecy be implying that China will reassert itself as the dominant global power? Or does it hint at something even graver, a third world war, with China emerging victorious? We've witnessed the collapse of the Soviet Union, the trauma of September 11th, the 2008 financial crisis, and the 2020 pandemic. History has never shied away from turning sharp corners. But 2025 might be unlike anything we've seen before. It could mark a great turning point in human civilization, a new beginning or a final end. But whatever comes, it is our choice, as how we live, what we believe, and how we act that will carry us through the storm. If the world truly is changing, then let us be the ones who change it for the better. If the fate of humanity truly lies in our hands, let us not let it slip away unnoticed. Because, as Master Hango wrote in his final poem, what comes next must be asked of those who come after. In other words, no matter how events unfold, it is always the hands of future generations that hold the power to shape a brighter world. If today's story made you pause even just for a moment to reflect on the ancient prophecies whispered across the centuries, then share your thoughts in the comments below. And forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell. I'll see you in the next story.